Hello everyone, my name is Paul Third, and this video has been a long time coming, because I actually own a Dolby Atmos room. But look, I'm not here to fucking tell you that Dolby Atmos is going to be the next big thing, blah de blah de blah de blah, because at the end of the day I don't give a shit what you all think, and you shouldn't give a shit what I think. And to be honest, all of this arguing about Dolby Atmos is just completely idiotic. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. I'm going to sit here on the fence as somebody who sits here and sees everything going on the way it is, who knows people in the industry, who can see kind of certain things coming, who's invested in a Dolby Atmos room. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons why it's completely idiotic to be arguing and being so toxic about Dolby Atmos in 2025. Right, point number 1. Dolby Atmos isn't taking over stereo anytime soon. Right, the reality is the stereo fold-down sounds shit. It's overly mono. Nobody that I know wants to use it. The stereo fold-down thing doesn't really work. And in regards to the mixers mixing stereo, they're not budging. As soon as I see Serban, Spike, Manny, Jason, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah, A-list mixer, move Atmos, then I'll be like, shit, this thing's moving. But they're no budging. I know a lot of A-list stereo mixers in the game, and they're no fussed and they're no bothered, and they're completely over the hill, busy with stereo mixes. They're not fussed, they're not bothered. If they're not fussed and they're not bothered and they're not getting squeaky bums, then I'm not worried at all. I'm like, right, okay, the industry is not really budging. However, that's not to say that Atmos isn't in the industry. It is in the industry. Nearly every fucking pop mix nowadays gets like an Atmos mix for Apple Music. There is an Atmos mix out there. However, what you need to realise is that from the A-list mixers that I know, and many Atmos mixers that I know, they tell me that, you know, stereo is king. Like, if the Atmos mix doesn't stay close and folds down close to the stereo mix, it'll just get rejected. The stereo mix is king. So if the stereo mix is king, then we don't really have anything to worry about. And I don't really see why people are getting in such a fucking hammock about everything. Just calm the ham. It's not taking over stereo. It will not be taking over stereo anytime soon. Stereo is king, and it will continue to be king for a long, long time. Number 2, the second thing that everybody seems to argue about all the time is that nobody can listen to it. The average consumer cannot listen to Atmos. Yes, absolutely correct. Yes, in terms of a 7.1.4 setup, the average consumer is not going to be able to listen to it. Even in terms of the translation and the fold-down, like the home stereo setups aren't going to translate well because they're not acoustically treated rooms. And you know, the whole point about an Atmos setup is that the calibration is so important, and there is a sweet spot. And you know, the calibration is really, really important. And if you don't have that in your house, and you've got up-firing speakers and you've got reflections off the wall, and it's just not going to work. It's just a mess, and it's just an oversight. And if you speak to a lot of Atmos mixers, they will normally be honest with you, maybe in private, and tell you that, yeah, like the whole stereo fold-down thing, the whole fold-down thing really just doesn't work. When you start getting down to 5.1 stereo and mono, it's not really the same mix. It's doing the best it can. And you know, that's the reality of Atmos, is that in the whole ADM world and the adaptable part of it, so you get an ADM file and that adapts, you know, to the speakers, whatever the playback system is, it's essentially trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. That's essentially what that form of Atmos is like. But what you need to realise is that everybody can see and everybody can hear that it's trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You've got the Atmos mix that sounds fucking amazing when it's done right, and then you're trying to push all that down and cram it down into a smaller speaker format. It does it folds it down. Sometimes people can say, oh, it still sounds quite decent, and there's some people that can make it work. But normally what I found with a lot of mixers is that you have to stick very close to the stereo and Atmos to get that fold down to work. But at the same time, right, this is what I have to laugh at, right? When people get in such a fucking like panic about it, and like,
yeah, but the ADM sounds shit, and yeah, it's not fucking working, and people use the stereo fold down, and what's the point in doing the stereo mix in the first place?
Now, as I said earlier, do you really think that Spike Stent and Serban Genya would really allow an Atmos mix to take priority over their stereo mix? No, that's not happening. What happens when a label, you know, puts out a track on Apple Music is they put out the stereo and also the ADM. So if somebody is listening to Apple Music in stereo, they'll get the stereo mix unless they've got like a setting in Dolby Atmos, which is it plays Dolby Atmos all the time on default. And you know, that's another thing, right? Remember that people can switch it off. It's not something that's forced on the listener. You could physically switch Dolby Atmos off and you'll just listen to Spike and Serban's mix. That's all you'd hear. There's no immersive mix. There's no binaural mix. It's just the stereo mix as it was intended. However, though, this brings me to point number 3. Now, another thing that many people on the internet get so het up about and like go fucking crazy about is the binaural mix, because they're like,
if they're listening on headphones, the computer tells Apple Music and they put the binaural thing on, and it puts the binaural thing on. I don't like the binaural thing, and it's got a reverb in it, and it doesn't sound like the stereo mix, and it's going to take over, and I just don't know what to do.
it's alright. It's alright. Calm down. Calm down. Paul's got you. Uncle Paul's got you, alright? I've got you. All I need to tell you is that yes, the binaural's fucking shit, right? I mix professionally on headphones. I've learned how to do it and get headphones to translate in stereo. What I can tell you is that Atmos and binaural is fundamentally flawed. Not many people have spoken about it, but I'm just going to be honest, right? There's nothing to worry about in regards to the binaural side. If you speak to anybody that's got an actual Atmos, like 7.1.4 setup, they don't give a shit about the binaural. Like, fuck the binaural. Because at the end of the day, right, it's completely flawed because there's no set target for the binaural. There's no set headphone design that works well for it. There's no really any technology out there in the headphone world that can perfectly recreate the height and make things sound perfectly behind you. And also, right, if we think about the binaural side of it, the mix is going to sound very different depending on what headphone they're listening to. Now, one thing I really disagree with is the whole distance process and things. You can add this like synthetic reverb to stuff and it's made to create distance, and you've got like near, mid and far. I totally disagree with it, and many people disagree with it, and there's many people that will just set all the binaural stuff to off and just have the HRTF processing. However, the thing with HRTF, head-related transfer function, is that HRTF is basically an individual thing, and everybody's HRTF is different. So if you're trying to listen to a binaural mix, some people might get a really good experience and some might not. And there's just too many variables in it. And considering the fact that like the audio industry is still trying to catch up on how to mix on headphones professionally, that's why me and Emra have got our Mix Phones channel. That's why we created it, was because so many people, even people in the industry, don't understand how to actually mix on headphones and get it sounding as good as like very, very expensive speakers and a well-treated room. It is possible, but you know, a lot of it is very headphone dependent. So like if you're trying to do the binaural stuff and you're trying to do the near, mid and far, and you're listening on something like the Ananda Nanos, what's going to happen is the Ananda Nanos are very dry, and their side image is a very set way. So you're probably going to add more, maybe you're going to add mids, a few things to mid, maybe a few things to far, and make it sound a little bit more reverby. Yeah, this sounds great. But then it's not going to translate because somebody's going to have maybe kind of more of a kind of an ambient kind of sounding headphone with a really big soundstage, and it's going to be like, oh shit, this is really washy. In my opinion, the whole square peg round hole thing, it just doesn't work with headphones. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's genuinely, to me, no different than trying to get Atmos to work in fucking stereo with the speakers. We don't do that, so why do we do that in headphones? Yeah, but it's because we can have binaural processing, but it's not perfect and it's gimmicky and it's not the Atmos. It's just not there. There's too many variables to get it right. And again, it's square peg round hole. So yeah, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it, right? People in the industry are not giving a shit about it, to be honest with you. And as I said earlier, if you're in fucking Apple Music, you can just switch it off. It's not like something that's forced on you. The binaural isn't forced on you. You can just fucking switch it off and move on with your day. Job done. What we're arguing about. However, we're not done. There's still more things that people argue about. Point number 4. Atmos is a waste of money and it's too expensive. Expensive how? What do you class as expensive? My Atmos room costs between $7,000 and $7,500 retail. I didn't pay that for it. I got a good deal on the Calais. I didn't pay for Audient Aurea. I paid for all the acoustic treatment. I paid to get the brackets for the height speakers and stuff. Didn't pay for the speaker stands. I wangled them. All the cables I paid for. And all the fucking labour. Jesus, it took me ages to get that right. Oh, and I didn't pay for Sonarworks either. So it didn't cost me that much. But even still, right, between $7,000 and $7,500. And many people would balk at that and be like, oh, fucking $7,500. Like guys like Barry Johns would be like, my name is Barry Johns, welcome to Studio Talk. Atmos it's just so expensive, don't you think? It's just so expensive. I mean, at the end of the day, I got tons of analog gear behind me, but You know what I mean? It probably cost triple of what Paul Third's room cost. All right. Why did I do Matthew McConaughey? That's quality. Either way, right, I'm going to stop doing Barry Johns. I just fell into that, right? But yeah, like, at the end of the day, right, I find it quite hypocritical that like people like Barry Johns would talk about Atmos being really expensive, and I look at all the analog gear behind him, and his analog gear is probably like triple the price that my Atmos room is. And a lot of the times I sit there and go, how much are you actually using that though? I don't think Barry works for clients anymore and stuff, so it's like fucking just there gathering dust. It's probably just a hobby. But yeah, look, it's his hobby and it's whatever fucking he does. And at the end of the day, who am I to judge how much money he spent on analog gear? As much as I think that analog gear is a waste of money, and I felt my investment was better spent on the Atmos room, it's our fucking lives. Like, why are we complaining and getting into arguments about what other people spend? If somebody wants to spend fucking $100 grand on an Atmos room, that's for them. Fucking crack on. But the reality is, you don't need to spend a shit ton of money for Atmos. And it's just hypocritical for me, because many people that state that Atmos is too expensive have spent way more money on like 2 sets of speakers. Like, I know people that'll spend like 12 grand on a pair of Dutch and Dutch, like maybe 10, 12 grand on a pair of keys and Amphions, and they'll spend like fucking 20, 30 grand for like speakers in stereo, and I'm like, you could get a full fucking Atmos room for that. Like, come on, like, Jesus. But I didn't sit there and be like, oh my God, what a waste of money they've got, fuck spending all that money on this and that and that. That's their life, it's their job. What's it got to do with me? Why are you so focused on other people? This is the thing, see, when you get so focused on other people, you end up not focusing on you, which is the most important. It doesn't matter what they spend, it matters what you spend. If you think it's a waste of money, don't fucking spend money on it. Simple as that. From a business perspective, Atmos works really well for me because it's a talking point, and to be honest, like, none of my clients give a shit about any of this analog gear. I went and spunked money on a fucking Fairchild, like a 500 series Fairchild, and my voice is running through it right now. And it felt good at the time, and I look at it and I go, I don't even use that for mixing. I don't even print mixes through it because I just don't give a shit. If I want analog, I've got Access Analog there, but yeah, for tracking, like in business purposes, yeah, I do feel analog is quite good for tracking because I can just print it on the way in, and like you don't have to worry about the latency and the blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. But there will be a lot of studios where Atmos is a very, very, very good investment. It works for me because it attracts people to the studio because people are interested in it. Loads of people want to sit there and listen to their favourite songs in a format they've never heard before, in a room that they know is really, really well treated and it's all fucking kitted out and stuff. They love it and it's an experience, and that kind of really brings me on to point number 5, which people argue about the sound of Dolby Atmos. And it's so stupid because music is so unbelievably subjective. So arguing about Atmos is a pretty kind of moot point for me, because anybody that says that the Atmos sounds shit full stop is just fucking narrow-minded. Just so narrow-minded and arguing for the sake of arguing. I've had 4 people cry in that Atmos room, 3 of them being grown men. I know that really shouldn't matter, but it surprised me. And you know, they got emotional because it was a song that they connected with and they just fell in it, and they're like, I've never heard this song before. There's a separation in Atmos which is amazing, especially because I've got audio and Aria. And it's like, some people don't like it because I've got this thing where I need you to hear what it can do, because you might only be in for a set amount of time. So in Aria, you can solo speakers in real time. So like, for example, I'll have like Fleetwood Mac on and I'll stick on the centre channel and you can hear Stevie Nicks isolated. And I'll be like, how about that, eh? Fucking Stevie Nicks on her own. How about Frank Sinatra on his own? How about that, eh? Like, turn around to me and they're like,
Just getting into that, you bastard. Fucking put it back on. Put it back on. None of your bullshit. Shut the fuck up.
I know, they get immersed in it and it makes people emotional, right? But at the end of the day, like, I think what people get so like fucking enamored about is this whole thing that, you know, Atmos is going to be the thing in the format. Like, how are you meant to expect Dolby Atmos to work everywhere when it really works best with minimum like 7.1.4, like 12 speakers in a room? And that's what I love about Atmos, is that I get a different representation of so many songs. There's songs that people have listened to in the Atmos room that are like, I've never really liked this song before, but I fucking love it in Atmos, because you tell a different story and it gives you a different perspective. There's an intimacy in stereo that can work really well, especially in headphones if I've got the HE1000 SE on and stuff. That's a different representation. There's a different representation if I listen to the iLoud MTMs because the transient response in the center image is so fucking right there. There's a difference if I listen to, the Edifier S3000 Mark IIs. They're very wide and spacious and full with depth, and the low end is nice, big and juicy and shit. And there's a way of experiencing music, and we should never hinder that. It's like Dolby Atmos has to die. I'm like, I had 3 fucking people cry in that fucking room. Why is that something that you want to stop? Why would I not want to let people experience music in a different way? Because the whole issue we've got is that one has to win and one has to lose. Why can't the two of them just fucking sit together? Like, at the end of the day, right, I'm going to be honest, I don't think every mix needs an Atmos mix. It's unnecessary in so many ways. If you're thinking of an Atmos mix and it has to stay very close to the stereo just because it's like a fucking label requirement, fucking scrap it, leave it, there's no point. Spotify aren't interested in going down the Atmos route, which is what most people are listening to. My wife, all her pals, all my family, most consumers are on Spotify. They're not even fucking entertaining it just now. All I'm trying to say is that there's no point arguing about it. Atmos, when it's done right, is amazing. Sounds amazing. It's really emotional when it's done right. And it's got so much potential. I can imagine songs being produced in it. But that doesn't mean to say that we're going to lose out on the stereo. Stereo's king. It's the consumer king. It's what everybody's used to. It's what works really, really well. We've spent decades upon decades upon decades getting stereo right. And the two of them can coincide. I love having an Atmos room because it means that I can get people in the room and I can let them experience music like they've never experienced it before. And it also means that when I get more used to it, I can hopefully get into that world and hopefully be given the reins to go, know what, Paul? We've got the stereo mix nailed. Just do your own thing. We'll do a thing where, again, we'll have that as it's almost like a special edition mix. It's like a special edition mix that only certain people can listen to if they're in a certain room and they need to go to a certain room. And it creates a bit of fun and it creates a bit of fucking mystique and stuff. And it's just experience. Why do we need to just shit on everything and make shit sound so fucking boring? Jesus, have a bit of fun and experience life a little bit. Stop arguing about stuff. It's fucking stupid. It gets personal. Like, if you don't like Dolby Atmos, just fucking don't fucking watch videos on it. You watch videos on it to moan about it. It's not going to be the next big thing. It sounds fucking shit. If you listen to an actual Dolby Atmos room.
No, I've listened to the binaural and it sounds shit. It's got fucking reverb in it. It doesn't sound right.
Oh my God, I need to quit this. Fucking hell. 35 minutes. Right, I'm done. I'm Paul Third. Just stop moaning and arguing about shit that you don't need to argue about, alright? We're a community. Can we please start fucking getting excited about things again and see things and be a little bit more objective? Whatever. My name's Paul Third and I'll see you whenever I fucking see you.